Inside a tavern, the talk of the town is all about monsters in human form. One of the men says they call themselves demon soldiers. He then recalls an incident that happened in the city 3 days ago, where 7 mages were brutally taken out by the demon soldiers. His friend gets spooked and asks if these soldiers are really that strong. The older man replies that strong doesn't even begin to cover it, because they have human-level intelligence and magical power even greater than dragons. The young man then questions why such powerful monsters are hunting mages, and according to the rumors, they're looking for something very specific. Suddenly, the scene shifts, and a mage shoves a man while yelling at him. Our hero, Sotel, falls to the ground, completely surprised by the woman's reaction. The mage, Amira, complains that he got a little too handsy for a simple healing spell. Sotel then apologizes for the misunderstanding, but he quickly explains that her wound was complicated because it had 2 different poisons. The healer asks if she didn't go a little too far, and she turns to a blonde guy. Shiero and Radian join the conversation, and Radian tells her to just drop it. He says it's a waste of time, and that even looking at Sotel will ruin his drink. Our protagonist is bummed out but agrees in the end. Radian then says Sotel's job is done, and tells him to get lost, and he throws a few coins on the ground as a humiliating payment for the healer. Radian tells him to come back tomorrow, and the party starts to leave, but Sotel calls out to him. Our hero then asks, outraged, if that's all he's getting paid, because on the ground were just a few measly bronze coins. Without even looking back, Radian replies that's what his work is worth. He humiliates him further, saying Sotel is just a burden who hides in the shadows. And right after that, the party enters the building, leaving him all alone. Meanwhile, inside, people recognize the famous rank of party. Everyone admires the trio and comments that they'll be rank S in no time. Outside, our protagonist stares at the closed door and lets out a sigh. He then remembers he was injured and uses a healing spell on himself. After that, our protagonist gets lost in thought, staring into space. He glares at the coins on the ground with a look of pure defeat. Sotel squeezes his eyes shut, trying to hold back all his anger, and he sits on the ground, wondering what he's even doing with his life. Our hero just sits there with a completely defeated posture. All alone on that cold street, he reflects on his future. Looking up at the moon, he thinks that maybe he should just give up on being an adventurer. But he quickly ditches the idea, since he has no other skills and no money saved up. Suddenly, he gets up and decides to stop thinking about all this depressing stuff. After all, he decides he's going to go out for a drink, because saving money is just plain sad. While walking peacefully, Sotel is caught off guard by a blast of purple energy. He feels the impact, completely clueless about what's happening. The blow hits him square in the gut, causing considerable damage. With wide eyes, our hero can't process the situation. He looks down and sees his abdomen is bleeding a lot. The confusion soon gives way to an expression of anger and determination. Seeing his hand covered in blood, he wonders what in the world this is. A cloaked figure appears and laments, having missed the attack that was supposed to be fatal. Our hero senses the presence and notices it's no ordinary human. On the rooftop, the monster observes him with a powerful aura. Sotel feels an immense magical power, stronger than any rank S he's ever seen. The monster introduces himself as Zeon, a demon soldier in the service of the Demon King. With a wicked smile, he says he's finally found him, and right after, he reveals that his mission is to take the life of the healer, Sato. Our protagonist doesn't understand how a demon soldier knows him. Zeon attacks again, but Sotel manages to defend himself with his staff. Even while blocking, our protagonist is pushed back by the force of the blow. He quickly uses the spell Angelic Heal to patch up his wound. The demon is impressed by his speed, and Sotel thanks him for the compliment. Now healed, he gets ready for the next round of the fight. Our hero charges at Zeon with everything he's got, but the demon taunts him, telling him to stop holding back. Sotel replies that he's not messing around, and realizes the monster really wants to end him. He doesn't get why, since he considers himself just a washed-up, rank F healer. Zeon is completely shocked by our protagonist's statement. The demon then asks if he really doesn't know the extent of his own power. Our protagonist is confused, and Zeon calls him a wasted treasure, and he reveals that he possesses a 1 in a 1,000-year ability. Suddenly, Xion attacks him by surprise, and Sotel screams, not understanding what's happening. The strike is too fast and hits our hero dead on. In the blink of an eye, Sotel's head is separated from his body. Xion explains that even incomplete, his power would become a threat in the future. Our protagonist is disoriented as his consciousness slowly fades. He sees his own body on the ground and wonders if he's really going to go out like this. Suddenly, a strange memory surfaces in his mind. In it, he sees Radian and Amira on top of a cliff, and he also sees himself fighting desperately against terrifying monsters. The faces of his old teammates appear in his thoughts. He remembers how he was excluded by the party, and realizes he doesn't have a single good memory. The last thing he sees is the silhouette of Radian confirming his failure. His last memory is the contemptuous look from his former comrades, all while the demon Zaun watches him with a satisfied smirk on his face. The red glint in the monster's eye reveals its malicious and cruel nature. And Sotel's last thought is that he had a really crappy life. But suddenly, the darkness vanishes and gives way to a beautiful, sunny landscape. Unexpectedly, a blue eye slowly opens, taking in the sunlight. Then, it widens in pure shock and surprise at the situation. Our hero jumps to his feet, totally confused by what he's seeing. He wonders where he is. A sweat drips down his face. Looking at himself, he notices his body is different, much younger. Our hero is all alone in the middle of a forest under a massive tree. He then stares at his hands and notes that they don't have any scars anymore. Confused, he touches his chest because he's sure he should be dead. He gets up and walks to a lake, wondering if he somehow came back to life, but he quickly dismisses that idea, since that would be impossible. And upon seeing his reflection in the water, he sees the face of an unknown young man. Suddenly, 3 men appear, and one of them says he isn't dead after all. Our hero turns his head, confused by the stranger's comment. The man says he looked dead yesterday, and that it would have been better if he'd stayed that way. Sotel stares at the group, trying to figure out if they're enemies. The heavyset man calls him Tyria and tells him to get up and get ready. Our boy is confused by the situation and assumes they must be allies, but the guy grabs him angrily, and our hero asks who they are. The man then questions if he got beat up so bad that he lost his memory, and he even threatens him with another beatdown to see if that'll wake him up. Our protagonist notices that Tyria's body is covered in wounds, just like his was. And as he realizes his soul has moved into the young man's body, a punch comes flying. But our hero stops the punch with one hand and calls the attacker kid. The man and his friends are totally shocked by the change in attitude because he realizes this isn't the Tyria he was used to pushing around. Suddenly, a green healing aura starts emanating from our hero's hand, and he uses the spell Fairy Heal to mend all his injuries. One of the cronies is surprised and asks when he learned to use healing magic. Our protagonist then replies that he's not the Tyria they knew anymore. The big guy gets ticked off by the response and takes his anger out on a nearby bird, and he yells at our hero not to get cocky just because he got a little stronger. He then threatens to kill him and tells his friends to attack with everything they've got. Our protagonist feels genuinely annoyed for the first time in a long while. He thanks Tyria for the body and prepares to teach these guys a lesson. And then he lunges forward with absurd speed toward the 2 goons. With impressive speed, he grabs the head of the first goon, and with a single, powerful blow, our hero knocks him out instantly. He then turns to the next one and warns him that he's up. The second goon gets furious and yells at him not to underestimate them. But our protagonist dodges the punch with ridiculous ease, and he lands a powerful counter attack right in the brute's stomach. The man is left gasping for air, and our hero comments that the hit wasn't half bad. The leader of the group is shocked, wondering what the heck is going on. Our MC picks up the staff from the ground, with the 2 goons already defeated, and with an intimidating glare, he asks if the big guy wants a beating too. The man is completely frozen, with fear at the question. He freaks out and starts yelling that just yesterday, Tyria was a useless dead weight. The boss calls him worthless, and is outraged by the sudden change. Our hero replies that he's heard the word useless plenty of times in his life. The heavyset guy then grabs a club and charges at him full force. But our protagonist says that as an adventurer, he's already been through hell, and using all his experience, he braces for the enemy's attack. Our boy blocks the club and lands a solid punch right in the big guy's face. He then says that using power without thinking is like a child's tantrum, and with a final apology, he ends the fight by throwing him backward. With the last blow, he says the guy can't even beat a rank F like him, and just like that, all three bullies are down for the count, totally defeated. Our hero then hopes this has cleared up some of Tyria's resentment, but he wonders how such an agile and strong young man was treated so poorly, and if the body belongs to Tyria, how was he able to use his own healing magic? Our protagonist still can't believe he's been given a second life and feels lost. Suddenly, something on the ground catches his attention while he's thinking. Near his foot, he finds a slightly crumpled piece of paper. Upon picking it up, he discovers it's a status examination form. The paper reveals that Tyria was an adventurer and a rank F swordsman. Our hero then decides he'll also take the exam to understand the situation. Besides, he remembers what the demon soldier Xion said about his rare ability. The Adventurers Guild uses a special magical tool for this exam, because ranks are a system that shows an adventurer's aptitude and power. Our hero remembers he hadn't done one of these in years because his skills weren't improving, and Radian would always yell at him for wasting time on useless things like that. He then arrives at the Adventurers Guild to finally take his exam, and right after, he sits down to check the results he just received. Our protagonist starts reading the paper to first see his basic status page, and the sheet shows the name Tyria, but the class and spells belong to Sotel, the healer. The paper also shows that his spell, Prayer to the Gods, is still unusable, but he wonders if this could be the ability the demon soldier mentioned. Then he turns the page and is shocked to see two skills he didn't recognize. Our protagonist is surprised by the skills Club and Full Auto. He remembers that Club is a common skill for physical attack classes, and even though he's a healer, he manifested it from swinging his staff so much. This means the real focus here is the ability called Full Auto, because it automatically activates its effects on the user and any allies he recognizes. Our hero then wonders if this is the so-called 1-in-1,000-year skill. He decides he needs to test it in the field, but suddenly, he hears familiar voices. Radian and his party enter the guild, and the blonde says Sotel isn't there. Amira complains that he's a terrible old man for running off without saying anything. Our boy gets tense, having completely forgotten about his former companions. Meanwhile, the trio looks for a new quest, since they're without a healer. Shiero says it's not their problem, and Radian tells them to just pick a mission already. Suddenly, Radian turns around, annoyed, and asks what the kid wants. He tells our hero to scram, because they're not some circus attraction. Amira then tells Radian to just forget the old man and move on. She adds that he was useless anyway, and left them with this whole mess. Our protagonist just watches the group. Our hero is shocked, because he realizes that no one recognized him. He then turns his attention back to the paper in his hands, still processing everything. The sheet shows the name Tyria, but his healer class and rank F. He thinks about the three guys who are tormenting him when he woke up, and also about the other acquaintances who were at the Adventurers Guild. And finally, he remembers his former teammates. None of them realized he was Sotel, the party's former healer. This makes him think that maybe he can start his life over from scratch. For a long time, he was an adventurer who had given up on everything. He needed money, and for that, he humbled himself before people like them. Our protagonist remembers his crappy life with a bitter smile, but now, with a determined look, he decides to put an end to that past. He crumples the paper in his hand with force and conviction, and he stands up, ready to finally leave his old life behind. To test his new skills, he accepts a very simple mission. The task is rank E, and consists of eliminating 30 wolves from the forest. He uses the staff he picked up to defend against the creature's first attack, and with his eyes glowing, he prepares to use one of his new skills. Our hero then uses club and lands a devastating blow on the wolf. Another monster charges forward, and our boy gets ready for the next attack. With another clean hit, he finishes off the wolf and thinks about how good the skill is. Suddenly, he feels a surge of power, and sees that Club has already leveled up to 2. And the party doesn't seem to be ending, as 3 more wolves emerge from the forest. With a confident smile, he prepares to test his full auto ability. Our hero then extends his hand and shouts the skill's name with all his might, but to his surprise, absolutely nothing happens, and he's left confused. One of the wolves takes advantage of the distraction and lunges at him. With no time to think, our boy reacts and lands a solid punch right in the mutt's face. He then wonders why the ability didn't activate, as he expected, but looking at the paper in his hand, he finally understands why. The skill activates automatically on him and any allies he recognizes by name. And to test his theory, he lets another wild wolf charge at him. The monster bites his arm hard, but our protagonist doesn't even flinch. And out of nowhere, the wolf's teeth shatter as if they'd bitten a rock. The creature is left with a broken jaw, crying out in pain from the result. He then realizes the skill is incredible, and with it, the damage he takes is almost 0. Our hero understands why the skill is a treasure, as it levels up faster. Now, everything makes sense, and he finally understands the demon soldier's motive. Because if he develops this ability, he could become infinitely stronger. The skill wasn't non-existent, he just didn't know he had it, and now he can start over. The ability had been active the whole time, but he simply didn't know it, and since he only ever faced strong opponents, he never felt its benefits. Now his body feels as light as a feather as the last wolf stares him down. He can see the creature's every move, as if it were in slow motion. Our hero understands that he'd been receiving the skill's benefits for a long time without noticing, and after the battle, the bodies of the wolves are scattered across the clearing. He then stares at the paper with the information about his new abilities, and he thinks that the full auto skill was something even the Demon King feared, but by a twist of fate, he came back to life and can now master this skill. With a dirty face, he promises to turn the tables and live this second life like a king. Back in the city, our boy walks the streets with a new purpose. He returns from the hunt carrying a huge, heavy sack on his back. The mission was to kill 30 wolves, but he got carried away and hunted triple that amount. Arriving at the guild, he sees an adventurer trying to flirt with a receptionist. The guy is holding the woman's hand with a very charming attitude. He calls her Rosa and asks if she has a little free time for him. The woman smiles shyly, but seems to be enjoying the attention. The adventurer says her shyness is cute and asks her out, but their conversation is interrupted when someone shows up behind the guy. The adventurer then slaps their hand away. The adventurer gets annoyed, but is cut off by a loud thud on the counter, because our hero slams a giant sack on the table, startling the receptionist, Rosa, and right after that, he throws down another huge sack, surprising the woman even more. Our boy then asks with an innocent face if he did something wrong. Poor Rosa is almost buried by the sacks of items he brought, and she's even more shocked by the size and weight of it all. Our protagonist hands over the mission paper and says he's here to turn in the quest. The woman takes the paper and is shocked to read that the mission was for 30 wolves, and her jaw drops even further when she sees the amount of loot he brought back. He then apologizes and says he accidentally hunted a little extra. The adventurer who was watching him is speechless at the scene he just witnessed, because this rookie named Tyria seemed to have an incredible skill. Our hero asks if it's a problem, but Rosa excitedly cuts him off. She congratulates him on completing the mission and is happy with the result, and says that for a healer to bring in so much loot alone is impressive. Our boy feels a bit flustered by the compliment and just says thanks. Rosa says that at this rate, he'll be promoted to rank E or even D in no time. In his past life, he only ever received fake smiles, but now he feels refreshed, and with a smile on his face, he thinks about how being young is a really good thing. But the adventurer rudely tells him to get out of the way. The adventurer then glares at him and asks if he's a rookie around here. Our boy vaguely replies that it's something like that. The guy laughs cockily and says he can see right through him, because he accuses him of just trying to impress the receptionist. Our hero calmly asks what would be wrong with that. The adventurer then concludes that he just bought all those items somewhere. Our protagonist then questions what he would gain by doing that. The guy replies with a smug look that he's just a weakling, and he even brags, saying he always completes his missions solo. Rosa lets out a very forced laugh at the guy's pathetic display. Our boy finally gets it and realizes the guy has a crush on the woman. The adventurer provokes him to answer the accusation already. Calmly, our hero says he gathered everything with his own strength. The guy doubts it, since the wolves he hunted have resistance to magic. Our protagonist then says that unfortunately, he can't use attack magic, so he simply used his staff to take down all the wolves. The adventurer starts laughing, thinking it's all just a joke. He then says our hero is stronger than he looks, and grabs the sack. Our protagonist realizes there's no point in saying anything more to him. The guy gets annoyed by our hero's look. Our hero then tells him to take it however he wants because they won't be seeing each other again. Angered by our boy's attitude, the adventurer clenches his fist tightly, and he yells for him not to get a big head as he lunges forward with a punch. But suddenly, our protagonist's eye flashes with an intense blue light. The guy lands a solid punch on his face, but the blow has no effect at all, and the result is not good, as the adventurer screams in pain from the impact. He then looks at his hand, not understanding what just happened there. It's completely bruised and bleeding because of the punch. The guy asks what was done to him, and our hero replies, "Nothing." Our protagonist says he didn't do a thing, and that it was just his defense skill, and from the impact of the punch, his full auto ability levels up to 2. Thus, his self-healing and reflex enhancement also improve. The people around them comment that the injury looks pretty painful, and they even find the guy pathetic for getting beat up after starting the fight. The adventurer is filled with shame and anger over the whole situation, so he grabs his sword, ready for round 2 of the fight. He draws his weapon, completely determined to get revenge on our hero. Yelling that he'll never forgive him, he charges forward with a sword attack. Our protagonist calmly predicts the downward strike coming from the right, and he easily dodges the attack by just stepping to the side. The adventurer is shocked, not expecting him to dodge so easily. Even with an injured hand, he prepares for the next sword attack. Then he tries a horizontal slash from the left, but our hero predicts the move. Thanks to his skill, he can read his opponent's every movement. It's as if his brain and muscles were directly linked. The fight continues, and now the two face off on top of a table. The guy gets desperate, because losing to a rookie would be a joke. Completely losing it, he screams that he's going to end our hero's life. Our protagonist then challenges him to see if he can deliver on that promise. With his opponent completely losing it, our hero decides it's time to fight back. So, the adventurer lunges forward with a rage-fueled sword strike. But our protagonist dodges the attack with impressive ease, and the guy calls him a pest. The adventurer's face twists in rage for not being able to land a single hit. He tries a horizontal slash, but our boy ducks and dodges it again. Our protagonist then says the guy is an adventurer too, and gets ready for a counterattack. Seeing the punch coming, the man tries to defend himself with his sword. His eyes go wide with fear as he sees the speed of the incoming attack. Meanwhile, our hero stares him down with a serious look, his eyes glowing blue, and with a cold expression, he says it's nothing personal before striking. The adventurer attempts a desperate strike, but our guy shatters his guard. In a swift move, our protagonist grabs the guy's hand with absurd strength. The man is in complete shock, not believing what's happening. With a single move, our hero flings him away, his sword flying through the air, and to finish it off, he lands a powerful punch right in the adventurer's face. After the fight, our guy is a bit confused by the result of that punch. He looks at the staff he used in the blow and notices something strange. Our protagonist thinks he didn't use much force and wonders if another skill leveled up, but he finds out that's not it and suspects his rank might have gone up. And upon checking his stats, he sees he went from an F rank healer to an E rank. The punch sends the adventurer's mug flying, and it shatters on the floor, splashing booze everywhere. Then, his sword clatters to the ground, and the fight finally comes to an end. The guy's friends are just standing there, jaws dropped, not believing the beatdown he just took. The adventurer is left sitting on the floor, totally defeated, as our hero walks away. Our guy feels a little awkward with all the attention he's getting, so he turns to the fallen guy and asks if he's okay. The man looks up, still in shock from our protagonist's strength. Everyone in the guild, including Tyria and the other adventurers, is impressed by the scene. The loser's face turns red with shame and anger for being so humiliated. He struggles to his feet, still feeling the pain from the hits he took, and without a word, he and his buddies leave the guild with their tails between their legs. Our protagonist just watches their pathetic exit with a smirk. Suddenly, a group of adventurers approaches him with a really friendly attitude. One of them calls him Man, and seems super excited about what just happened. The guy congratulates him, saying he's awesome, and that the jerk won't be coming back. He ruffles our hero's hair, who gets flustered and tells him to stop. The adventurer then calls for Tyria, who walks over to the group. The young woman thanks our boy and apologizes for him getting involved in the mess. Our protagonist says it wasn't her fault, while the other guy is still hugging him, but Tyria looks away a bit awkwardly, as if she wants to say something more. Our guy smiles and tells her not to worry, because he just really didn't like that dude. Her reaction leaves Tyria with a surprised look on her face, but then she breaks into a smile and gives him a genuine thank you for the help. After the commotion, our hero says goodbye to the folks at the guild and goes on his way. He then walks alone through the city streets at dusk. He lets out a sigh of relief as he watches the sunset over the bustling city. Our protagonist strolls through the streets, thinking about everything that happened. He reflects that he was attacked, came back to life, and even did a solo mission, all in a single day, and with a slight smile on his face. He thinks about how insane all of it was, but despite all the craziness, he admits he had a lot of fun. He remembers that for decades his skills never improved, and he was a total failure. However, now he reaches his hand out to the sun, feeling this new opportunity. Living a new life in this body might not be such a bad idea after all. And with that in mind, he decides he can head to the city of Bardalia. He remembers the last time he was there was about 3 months ago. And it's not a fond memory, since he was thrown into a monster nest. His old companions pushed him in there just for kicks. Back then, he was full of energy and wanted to eat until he couldn't move. However, with Radian and the others around, he couldn't do what he wanted. He'd end up just eating vegetables while watching them devour all the meat. He remembers Shiero once gave him a piece of meat out of pity, but it gave him such bad indigestion that he got really sick. However, with this new body, he feels like he can eat as much as he wants without any problems. Our guy then stops for a moment to reflect on his new life. He has a lot of questions about the why and how of it all, but he decides that what's done is done, and it's better to just get used to it. With a clearer mind, he enters a house to start getting ready. Decided, he says there's no time like the present and goes to pack his things. Our protagonist then grabs his bag to start organizing his items. He sits on the floor and begins to sort everything he'll need for the trip. With a smile on his face, he feels like a kid before a field trip, and soon after, he says the preparations are almost all set. However, he didn't count on a small snag in his plans. As he stretches, he realizes the kid's body was really well built. Because of that, he decides he needs to buy new clothes before he leaves. Next, our hero starts boiling something in a pot over the fire. Carefully, he removes the hot pot to finish his preparation. Inside is a potion made with 7 types of herbs and his own magical power. He thinks the name, Toxic, is a bit over the top and wonders who came up with it. Despite the weird color, he guarantees the potion's effectiveness is the real deal. But suddenly, the front door is busted open with absurd force. Our hero whips around, startled by the noise and the debris flying everywhere, and, with a shocked expression, he wonders, what in the world was that? Suddenly, a little white wolf jumps on our hero, catching him by surprise. The little guy knocks him to the ground and stays on top of him, all excited and happy. With its tongue out, the little wolf barks cheerfully at the young man. He's confused and wonders where on earth that puppy came from. Just then, a sinister fog appears out of nowhere, and our boy protects the animal. This fog transforms into a red monster with very sharp claws. The reflection of the fearsome creature appears in the protagonist's eye, leaving him shocked. He's thrown back by the beast's aura and wonders if it's real. The monster stares down the young man, who has no idea who this enemy is. The creature lunges with a swift blow, but our hero manages to dodge just in time. He then complains that problems just keep showing up one after another. The little wolf looks at him with an expression that almost seems worried. Our protagonist gets annoyed and says his day is full of disasters. At that, the little puppy makes a cute sound as if asking a question. He faces the monster and tells the animal not to worry because he'll protect it. At that moment, he notices the little wolf has a few scratches on its back, so the healer uses his angel healing magic to treat the wounds. Now fully healed, the little wolf looks much healthier and happier. Our hero gives a slight smile, relieved that he was able to help the little guy. Then he picks it up and decides to end this fight as quickly as possible. The fearsome creature prepares to attack, its red eyes glowing. With that, our hero grips his staff with all his strength, ready for battle. He then strikes the monster's arm with a powerful and precise blow. Even so, the enemy's strength pushes him back along with the little wolf. Our boy becomes thoughtful as he notices something strange about the beast's attack. The shadowy creature advances again, its tentacles ready to strike. Annoyed, he complains that the monster is wrecking his house like it owns the place, and with a shout, he lands a devastating blow right in the middle of the creature. The young man swiftly dodges another of the shadowy foe's attacks. The monster's body dissipates a bit from the staff's impact, but the fog creature quickly regenerates, returning to its original form. With a determined look, our protagonist prepares to continue the fight. He thinks that if he keeps this up, he'll eventually run out of energy. The hero complains that this whole situation is quite problematic as he defends himself, but as he blocks a blow, he feels something odd about the enemy's strength. The monster attacks once more, but our boy manages to defend himself. His eyes focus on the battle as he starts to understand what's going on. A memory of the blow's impact makes him realize the truth about the monster. The creature's attack left a nasty hole in the wooden floor of the house. However, he finds the hole too shallow and wonders if the beast is holding back. He then wonders why the enemy would be restraining itself in this fight. With a face full of anger, our hero continues to defend against the beast's attacks. One of the strikes hits his neck, but the wound vanishes instantly. At that moment, his self-recovery ability activates, healing the damage. With a confident look, he thinks about how useful this healing skill is. The fog creature then prepares for another powerful attack. With a fearsome roar, the monster opens its arms and charges with everything it's got. The beast advances, but our protagonist looks at it with a different expression. Just then, he gets an idea and wonders if the monster is weak against healing power. The creature attacks with its arm, which looks more like a sharp tentacle. The blow destroys another piece of the house, kicking up wood dust. Seeing this, our hero prepares to finally test his new theory. He decides he won't waste time thinking, and will find out through action. So the young man uses his fairy healing magic directly on the monster. The creature screams in pain as the healing magic deals an absurd amount of damage to it. With a victorious smile, our protagonist realizes he hit the mark. The monster retreats, feeling the power of the holy magic searing its body. Seeing the enemy's weakness, the young man advances with his staff ready to strike. He then starts using his fairy healing repeatedly on the enemy without stopping, and with one last healing blow, he prepares to end the fight for good. He keeps attacking the beast with his healing magic relentlessly. Our hero focuses all his energy into the staff for the final blow. With a determined shout, he says that this will end it once and for all. Then he jumps and uses his angel healing with all his might against the enemy. The monster faces the attack, its red eyes wide with surprise. With the impact of the magic, the creature's body breaks apart into several pieces. And so, the fight comes to an end with our protagonist standing victorious. But he's a little confused, as he sees no trace of the enemy. Our boy then opens the door and looks outside to see if everything is okay. He finds it very strange that the monster didn't leave any remains behind, and he thinks it's the first time in decades he's seen a monster weak to healing. After checking everything, he goes back inside. Still thoughtful, the young man puts a hand on his head, feeling a bit dizzy and tired. Then he wonders if he might have used too much mana in the fight. But suddenly, he feels a strange sensation coming from the boy's body. His full auto skill levels up, and he finds its growth rate to be way too fast. With that, He wonders if the boy, Tyria, had something special about him. At that moment, he turns and sees the little wolf staring at him intently. The little guy seems to be in a guarded stance, suspicious of what happened. So our hero approaches and tells the animal not to be so defensive. With a calm gesture, he holds out his hand and says that everything is fine now. Unexpectedly, the little wolf lunges forward and swats our hero's hand away. The young man is left completely confused as the animal stares at him seriously. To his surprise, the white wolf speaks and asks if he isn't Tyria. The animal then asks where Tyria is and why he has that appearance. Completely in shock, our protagonist can't believe the puppy just talked. A status screen appears, revealing that his skills have leveled up. Filled with anger, the wolf bares its teeth and demands to know what he did to Tyria. The healer then asks if Tyria was perhaps the owner of this body. The animal seems to understand the situation and readies its sharp claws. Full of fury, the wolf accuses him of simply stealing its friend's body. The young man quickly tries to explain, denying that he did that to the boy, but the animal doesn't listen and lunges at him with all its fury. Now the two face off, creating incredible tension, and the wolf is ready to pounce. Our hero yells as the white wolf leaps toward him to attack. Without hesitation, the creature bites the young man's arm with considerable force. Even with the bite, he maintains a serious and focused look on the situation. The wolf stops for a moment, looking very confused by the result of its attack. The animal keeps biting his arm, but it doesn't seem to have any effect. The healer then asks what happened all of a sudden. Since the bite didn't hurt, the wolf stops its attack and complains that its stomach hurts. Our hero is confused and wonders if it still had some injury. But in reality, the little guy was just hungry and asking for food. The healer then gives an awkward smile upon understanding the situation. With that, he serves the potion he prepared, and the wolf devours it instantly. The young man watches the animal eat with a very suspicious look. The little wolf is amazed by the taste and says, "It's overflowing with power." Our boy finds that very suspicious, as the animal started speaking more clearly, so he asks if dogs can have that kind of soup. The animal replies that it's not a dog, so there's no problem. The young man keeps staring at the beast with a look of disbelief. He then comments on the wolf's dog-like appearance, which it ignores. Then our hero says, the animal bit him quite a bit earlier. The wolf apologizes and says it didn't realize he was complete. The young man doesn't understand what that means, but the animal says he'll find out soon. With a thoughtful look, he decides to ask the little wolf another question. He then asks why the animal was with Tyria's body. The wolf explains that Tyria was a child chosen for some reason. The creature says it had the mission to care for and protect the boy. Our hero then says it should be panicking because Tyria is already gone. The wolf nods in agreement and says that what he said is true. It then smiles and says that must have been the boy's destiny. Our hero says that Tyria was 18 years old and that what happened is a shame. Therefore, the creature says its mission now is to guide our protagonist. The young man gets a bit tired of hearing that same story again. He then changes the subject and asks what that monster from before was. After all, he had never seen a fog creature that was weak to healing magic. The wolf then replies that, to be honest, it doesn't know much either. It only remembers being suddenly attacked when it went out to look for Tyria. The healer gets stressed out because demons and strange monsters have appeared. The creature then looks at him and asks if he happens to know about the demons. At this, the wolf gets serious and wonders if they've finally started to make their move. The animal stays silent for a while, making our hero very curious. The young man sighs and says that if it's not going to talk, then just forget it. With that, he picks the little wolf up in a very clumsy way. The healer carries it to the door and says it can go home now. He then reveals that he's going to start a journey the next morning. The young man says it's none of its business where he's going, as it's his new life. But the wolf refuses and says it will accompany him on this journey anyway. After all, it says that if it doesn't, it won't be able to face Tyria later. Our hero says he doesn't need a guardian, as he's too old for that. But the wolf insists it needs to stay by his side, especially if the demons have made a move. Then the creature starts to glow and says it's surprisingly useful when it wants to be. Our boy is shocked by the light and the animal says it hasn't properly introduced itself yet. It reveals itself as Gracia of the Sky Messenger's clan and carries him into the air. Our hero gives a somewhat forced smile at the whole unexpected situation. His blue eye reflects the sky as he flies on the back of the giant creature. With that, the two fly through the skies at high speed, soaring over the entire city. Then he gets a view of a couple holding hands, walking down the street, and also of a guy dancing, and another one crouching to pick something up from the ground. Gracia then tells Sotel to use him if he has a goal for this journey, and with that, the two continue their flight through the city's skies toward the horizon. The healer becomes thoughtful at the word "kus," as he doesn't really like it. After all, that word reminds him of how he was used and betrayed in the past. He remembers his old companions and how he was cast aside by them, but he sees it as a contract where he receives benefits in exchange for being watched. The young man thinks that maybe it'll be good to spice up his new life a little. With a smile, he agrees and says he will use him without any reservations. Gracia then asks for their first destination, and our hero replies that it will be Bardalia. The wolf recognizes the city, and the young man says they'll go to Filialka, the city of fairies, afterward. Our hero explains that he likes the figures from that city, and the wolf finds that hobby quite unexpected. The young man agrees with a thoughtful look, but he has other plans in mind. He wants to drink sake and eat some really grazy meat skewers. The healer also wants to enjoy his hobbies to the fullest without any worries. With a smile, he says he wants to get back all this little happiness he lost. Then the two arrive in the city of Bardalia, which is very busy at dusk. Through the streets, many people are walking and enjoying the city's peaceful night. Our hero observes the hustle and bustle and the food stalls with a curious gaze. Gracia comments that the place is very lively and seems excited by the view. The young man agrees and says the energy here is different from where he used to live, and that's why he wanted to stop by Tyria's house to get some new clothes. But the creature says their time is limited and they can't waste it. The wolf suggests he use fur like it does, and the young man replies that he's unfortunately human. The creature then looks at him with a smile and asks why he's so grumpy. Just then, they arrive at a shop, and Gracia asks if this is where he wanted to go. The young man then opens the door and enters the establishment to do his shopping, but to his surprise, the place is dark, and he sees only one woman inside. The lady apologizes and informs him that the shop is temporarily closed for the day. Our hero is a bit surprised and disappointed by the unexpected news. With a sigh, he just nods and prepares to leave the place. The lady apologizes and says the shop won't be opening for a long time. Our hero is confused by the news and doesn't understand the reason for the closure. She then explains that the truth is they can no longer go to the animal pasture. That was a peaceful place where the creatures grazed freely, but now a dragon has settled in a cave right in the middle of the path. The young man is completely shocked and asks if she really said a dragon. The woman just confirms with a nod, her expression very sad and disheartened. With that, the two say their goodbyes and leave the shop without getting what they wanted. Gracia comments that not only was it a dragon, but it was also a rare variant. The creature says our hero is unlucky to be stopped right at the start of his journey. The young man then clenches his fist tightly, showing his determination. With a confident look, he says that's why he's thinking of taking down the dragon. The wolf is shocked by the idea and asks if he's gone crazy. After all, even a normal dragon requires an A-rank party or higher to fight. But the healer shouts that it's human nature to want to take on impossible challenges. The creature looks at the young man with an expression of disbelief at his craziness. Gracia then asks if he has any chance of winning that fight. The young man says the dragon's specialty is poison and that it's compatible with his healing, but he admits that its method of attack is still a big problem in the fight. He explains that its scales are harder than orichalcum, and Gracia notes his experience. Our hero reveals that a long time ago, he fought against dragons a few times, but he only remembers being treated like a shield and having some terrible times. The creature gets confused and wonders about this long time ago. The young man laughs and says he's much older than he looks. Then, he admits the odds are against him if he attacks the way he is now. Gracia looks at him seriously, as he says he needs weapons and equipment. That's why he wants to get some armor, and the wolf has no objection. With their plan set, the two then arrive at a weapons shop in the city. Our hero enters the place, and a bald shopkeeper greets him with a welcome. The healer says he's going to hunt a dragon and asks if he has any weapons for it. The man is very surprised by the request and repeats the word dragon. With a mocking smile, he tells the boy to forget it and go play with his little dog. Gracia gets furious, but our hero calms him down and apologizes for his temper. The young man then tells him not to worry, as he has plenty of money. With that, he throws a heavy bag full of coins onto the counter. The shopkeeper stares at the bag of money with an expression of pure surprise. Then he opens the bag carefully, while the little wolf watches him angrily. The bald man is completely shocked to see the amount of money in there. To his surprise, the bag was packed with dozens of gold coins. In disbelief, he picks up one of the coins to make sure it's real. The gold coin shines brightly in the shopkeeper's hand, much to our hero's surprise. With that, his attitude changes, and he says the young man should have said so sooner. The man quickly recommends a staff made from a spirit tree over 100 years old. Our boy laughs and thinks it was a great idea to hunt monsters. The shopkeeper continues showing off various other pieces of equipment with a big smile, but the young man's gaze focuses on something, and the man carefully picks up a sword. His blue eyes sparkle as he sees the weapon, which gleams with a strong, golden light. The healer then takes the sword, and the shopkeeper praises him for his good taste in choosing it. He then explains that the weapon is made from a rare, or called atherast. The sword emanates a blue aura, and its magical conductivity is very high. The shopkeeper then asks where he's from, as he's never seen him around before. He notes that the young man is well dressed, and that even his dog has a dignified air about it. At that, our hero says he'll buy it, and Gracia asks if he knows how to use a sword. The young man replies that, to tell the truth, he's never held a weapon like that before. He remembers that swords were Radiant's specialty, but he thinks it looks really cool. Seeing that, Gracia says it's his money, and he can do what he wants with it. The healer then leaves the shop, all excited with his new sword on his back. After that, the two head to the forest, where the dragon is hiding. Upon arriving, they find a cave with pools of poison everywhere. The poison is stronger than the rumors said, and a green aura protects his feet. A green healing aura surrounds the white creature, preparing it for battle. With the skill active, the healing effect is constant, and he asks if the wolf is nervous. But the young man replies that he's not nervous at all. In fact, he's very excited. Gracia then says that's great, because it has high expectations for the battle. With everything ready, the hero turns and, along with his partner, enters the dark cave. The creature stares into the darkness, thinking about the power they had sought for so long. After all, that is the true nature of the legendary skill that appears once every 1,000 years, and with the dragon hunt, he'll finally be able to verify its true essence. It all goes back 2 years ago when a silver-haired warrior used her purple powers against the danger. Then a colossal dragon with pink scales and red eyes appears, glowing brightly in the darkness. With that, the group of adventurers faces the giant beast in a life or death battle in the middle of an open field. At that moment, the healer's hands prepare to cast a powerful restoration spell on his allies. He then uses his angelic healing magic to restore the strength of his ally who was injured in combat. But the annoyed blonde man charges forward with his sword, ready to pierce the tough skin of this flying monster. The pink-haired maid shouts magical words as she prepares a fire attack against the winged enemy. A giant explosion occurs in front of the creature, while the warrior attempts a decisive aerial strike. At this, the giant beast glares at the humans with a look of pure hatred and contempt for their audacity. Radian grinds his teeth in frustration, realizing his physical attacks are having no effect on the beast. The swordsman then complains that at this rate, they'll all be exhausted before they even win the fight. At that moment, the sorceress with glasses orders an immediate retreat for the group to save their lives. The trio's leader looks surprised, realizing he can't defeat the monster alone in his current state. With that, He takes a firm step back as he plans a very cowardly move against his teammate. But the weak young man watches the blonde man approach with an expression full of malice and great hatred. Then, the brute grabs Sodal by the collar and says that if he has enough energy to talk, he should be useful now. He throws the poor healer toward the danger just to buy some time and get away as fast as possible. The silver-haired warrior watches the scene, completely shocked by the cruelty of her own ally. However, the mage gives a wicked smile, as she already expected the leader to do that to the useless boy. In the end, the hero falls to the ground alone, as the others run away, leaving him behind as simple bait. The young man is paralyzed with fear as he remembers his past life and the terror he felt that day. He remembers the creature opening its huge mouth, ready to swallow him whole without any mercy. Even facing his imminent end, he used his angel's healing to protect himself from the beast's venomous attack. The healer was thrown far by the force of the blow, but still tried to stay on his feet in the fight. Desperate, he drank several fairy healing potions to avoid being defeated by the giant creature. Back in the present, our hero and his furry partner face the entrance of the enemy's dark cave. He remembers that he was so injured back then that he could barely sleep, and that he's been through worse. Gracia asks if he's really going in, and the wolf says he won't repeat the mistake he made with Tyria. Our protagonist understands his new teammate's determination and agrees in silence. With that, the two enter the dangerous cave, which is filled with pools of purple poison everywhere. The poison bubbles on the ground while more drops fall from the ceiling, making the environment quite deadly. The young man warns that breathing is getting difficult, and that even the dragon's breath can be dangerous. The white creature gets scared and complains that he should have warned him about this long before they went in. Our hero smiles and tells the wolf not to worry, because the full auto skill affects him too. He then understands that the ability activates on its own for him, and any allies he recognizes by name. Gracia gets super excited by the news, and says he's counting on the healer's power. The pair then advances deeper into the sinister cave, surrounded by a very intimidating purple aura. They walk carefully through the place, preparing for their encounter with the giant monster that lives there. Suddenly, the animal stares at something ahead with an expression of pure panic and great fear. Our boy senses the imminent danger and yells for his partner to watch out for the surprise attack. With that, the protagonist acts fast and shoves Gracia away while defending against the dragon's tail attack. The poison-covered tail whips through the air, and the creature finally reveals itself completely in the dark cave. The monster's body is covered in a purple goo, and its red eyes glow with a thirst for battle. But despite the danger, our hero remains calm and faces the beast with a serious and very determined look. The dragon then attacks again with a powerful swipe of its tail, trying to crush the young man at once. The impact of the attack kicks up a cloud of dust and poison that hits our protagonist head on. With that, the poison splatters everywhere, and even with protection, the young man feels the pain of the corrosive attack. He then realizes that his auto heal alone won't be enough to withstand the power of that poison. So, he uses his fairy healing, creating a green energy barrier to protect himself from the damage. He is surprised by the spell's power, and realizes his new weapon is better than he imagined. The beast roars furiously while our boy compliments the enemy's power without showing any fear. With a confident look, he grips the handle of his new sword, preparing to finally counter-attack. He then says that if the dragon thinks this will stop him, it's mistaken, because he won't lose his second chance. The monster charges with all its might, ready to finish off the adventurer who challenged it. Gracia panics because the young man has never used a sword and has no idea what he plans to do with it. Then, our hero wields the sword still in its sheath, as if it were a large wooden club. He uses his club's skill and lands a blow on the dragon's head with the sheathed sword. The little wolf is completely shocked by the scene, not expecting such a bizarre move from his partner. The blow has no effect, and the beast roars as the young man admits his plan didn't work out so well. The wolf yells that it's a sword and he needs to unsheath it, and our hero laughs and agrees with him. Then, the dragon opens its enormous mouth to launch another one of its poisonous attacks. With that, the slimy beast unleashes a blast of green venom toward our hero. Even so, the young man faces the attack head-on with a serious and determined look. The venom hits him squarely, completely enveloping him in a toxic and deadly cloud. At that moment, Gracia panics and shouts his partner's name, fearing the worst. The entire cave is covered in a thick green smoke, with no sign of the protagonist. But to the little wolf's relief, the smoke begins to clear, revealing the young man's silhouette. He then emerges with his sword unsheathed and glowing, saying that was a close one. The wolf is shocked, wondering if he nullified the poison with healing magic on reflex. Our hero realizes his casting speed is off the charts and becomes thoughtful. The blade of his new sword shines with an intense blue light, absorbing his magical energy. He then understands that the sheath melted, but the blade absorbs his healing and is incredible. Gracia runs to him to see if he's okay, and the healer confirms that he's great. Without giving them time to rest, the monster lunges with its sharp claws for the next strike. With that, our hero prepares for the counterattack, swinging his sword with all his might. He tells the creature to calm down, because it's being very loud and restless. Then the young man charges forward with his blue, glowing sword, ready to slice the giant monster. A dark, muscular figure appears as the manifestation of his newfound power. Now, with his face hidden, he prepares to show the extent of his abilities. With a confident smile, he gets ready to use the full power of his new magic sword. Suddenly, our hero wonders what that strange sensation he's feeling is. With that, he charges forward with his sword in a swift and precise movement against the enemy. He then realizes his body is moving on its own, as if it remembers how to fight. In the blink of an eye, he cuts off the dragon's arm with absurd ease. The young man then pierces the beast once more, as if acting on pure instinct. His eye glows blue, as he says he's seen that move before in the fight. His sword glows intensely as he prepares for the next attack. The monster roars in pain, feeling the deep cut the young man just made. Even with the serious injury, the slimy creature doesn't give up and remains standing. Our hero faces the wounded dragon calmly and with a very serious look. He then closes his eyes and seems to finally understand what is happening. With that, he realizes that Tyria's will still remains in that body. He remembers that Tyria was an F-rank swordsman and that his body has memories. Now he understands the feeling he had, because it was the boy's will to fight. The healer then calls out to Tyria and says they will fight together from now on. The dragon glares at the young man with its red eyes full of anger and hatred. Now, the two prepare for the final showdown that will decide the fate of that fight. Our protagonist's eyes and his sword glow with an intense blue light. The giant beast roars in pain and frustration as it reaches its limit. But suddenly, the monster makes an unexpected move and surprises the young man. With that, the giant beast charges furiously toward the two with its wings spread. But the little wolf seems to have a very bold and sneaky plan in mind. Suddenly, the dragon turns and tries to escape by flying far away from the battle. Gracia then bites the monster's tail and is carried along in its escape. The creature flies out of the cave at high speed with the hero's partner. It soars into the open sky, while our protagonist watches everything from the ground. The monster continues its desperate escape through the skies of that region. The wolf gets furious because the dragon is treating him like a simple animal. He then uses the barrel on his back to force open the enemy's mouth. Baring its teeth, the white creature shows that it's not messing around. With that, the giant beast lets go of the little wolf, who falls toward the ground. Our hero watches everything from below, not knowing what to do in that situation. Gracia then shouts his partner's name, asking for quick help. He calls him to battle and tells him they should go all out against the creature. Our protagonist then mounts his partner in mid-air with a perfect jump. Now together, they will show that the sky doesn't just belong to the dragon. The young man laughs and uses his healing on the wolf, who hates being called a dog. Gracia reveals himself to be a sky farer and charges ahead at full speed. The duo flies, and the healer attacks the winged monster with an aerial strike. He says that next time, they should take it a little easier. Our hero shouts that he'll want to hear the full story about the sky farers later. With that, he dives toward the dragon, ready to deliver the final blow to the creature. His sword glows intensely as he prepares to pierce the monster's thick scales. Then, the sharp blade pierces the giant beast's flesh, releasing a powerful purple energy. He holds on tight to the sword as the dragon's body begins to fall toward the ground. With a single, well-aimed strike, the monster's head is separated from its body, and the fight comes to an end. Our hero then says that one day, they will sit down and talk about everything calmly. With a smile, he says they have plenty of time in this life to catch up. After the battle, the dragon's body lies in the river, and our hero rests on a rock. He stares at the water with a thoughtful look, processing everything that just happened. At this, his partner approaches, and he looks up at the sky with a feeling of victory in his chest. He holds his sword and says to himself that he finally managed to defeat the creature. With his own hands and that sword, he overcame his first great challenge alone. That was the first victory he achieved by himself, and also a testament to Tyria's life. The young man who passed away beside him is still etched into that body in his memories. With this in mind, he grips the sword's hilt with strength and determination. Our protagonist then says he needs to value this new chance and the boy's memory. He is no longer a burden or a dead weight, because now he has managed to defeat a dragon on his own. Gracia then asks if they are leaving already, and our hero confirms with a serious look. He says that from now on, he will keep growing to clear away his regrets and Tyria's. With the victory, his full auto skill levels up, improving all of his stats at once. At this, his partner Gracia looks at him, satisfied with the outcome of the fight. The young man still feels Tyria's presence by his side, as if they were connected by the battle. The wolf then calls his old friend's name, with a tone of regret in his voice. He admits that he was wrong and that's why he lost Tyria, but now he can't make the same mistakes again. Therefore, he promises to guide our hero, so that together they can fulfill the young swordsman's will. With a determined look, the creature says that to do so, he also needs to prepare for the future. The scene then changes to the city of Bardalia, where night falls peacefully over the houses. From above, a mysterious cloaked figure observes the city with a very sinister blue crystal ball. In the sphere, he sees the image of our hero and his partner after their victory against the dragon. The strange being says that for a human, the young man is quite impressive, but still not enough. With a single gesture, he shatters the crystal sphere into many pieces very coldly. The figure then sits on a rooftop, observing the city with a malevolent gaze. He reveals his red eyes and a sinister smile, saying the young man has annoyed him. Meanwhile, the night continues peacefully in the city, with stars shining in the purple sky. The scene changes again, and now we see the sign of a bustling tavern full of people. Inside, our hero and his partner are sitting at a table, enjoying the place. The shop lady thanks them for defeating the dragon and saving her business. The young man is eating peacefully when he notices his partner is also eating at the table. He then tells the lady not to worry, as he did it simply because he wanted to. In the tavern, the owner thanks the young man and the white wolf for accepting the job so kindly. She mentions that the dragon has been defeated and the local livestock survived, despite losing a lot of weight. With a sigh, the woman confesses she was ready to close the restaurant because no one would accept her quest before. The young adventurer continues eating and comments that it would be a huge waste to close a place as good as this one. The owner then thanks him from the bottom of her heart and looks at the hero with a great sense of gratitude. But she soon asks them to come back in the future because they haven't seen everything the establishment has to offer. Smiling, the dark-haired man replies that he will definitely be back, as he's eager to try more of the house specials. The atmosphere in the place is very friendly as other customers enjoy a relaxing evening in the quiet village. At that moment, the young man devours another piece of meat and realizes his appetite seems to have no end. He reflects that being young is truly the best thing in the world as he hears his furry partner call him loudly. With that, the white animal is delighted with the roasted meat and hastily asks for more food at the table. But the protagonist hands over another plate and warns the little wolf not to overdo it during their dinner. The inn remains very lively as the travelers finish their meal to soon continue on their journey across the world. Shortly after, the pair departs on their mount and crosses the fields under the moonlight, passing by a calm river. The healer asks if their next destination is indeed the fairy city called Filialka to see a famous major event. It's a magic performance where a dancer performs incredible moves in the middle of a packed arena. But the furry beast questions the point of watching magic tricks that serve no useful purpose. With a smile, the hero tells him not to say that, because he'll surely end up liking it when he sees it up close. Suddenly, a sharp spear flies through the air at high speed, passing very close to the two friends' faces. At that moment, the young man and his companion have a look of pure shock, as they realize they are under a surprise attack. At that moment, we see a blonde archer in the middle of the dark forest, who seems to be watching the path carefully. Then, the girl appears in front of the dark-haired man and his wolf, and the mood gets a little awkward between them. But she quickly starts apologizing desperately for almost hitting them with her deadly attack. With that, the young woman shows she is very embarrassed and worried about what she just did by accident. At that moment, she bows deeply and repeats several times that she is very sorry for the scare she gave them. The protagonist then tells her to relax and not worry about what happened, as everything is fine. With a calmer look, the blonde girl thanks him and comments that she almost became a criminal on her very first day. He then makes a slightly awkward face upon hearing the new adventurer's confession, who seems to be quite clumsy. At this, the young woman looks at her own calloused hands as she holds her wooden bow, with a certain amount of force and pain. But the hero notices that her fingers are bleeding from the excessive effort during her training today. The young man then asks if she has something important to do so quickly in her injured state. Surprised, the archer stares at the young man, not quite knowing what to say to his unexpected concern. Even so, she tries to hide the pain and says she needs to leave soon to not waste her time. At that moment, the dark-haired man observes her with a very serious look and realizes there's something wrong with this girl. This reminds him of himself, of the hard life he used to live, and he still sees himself in her. So, before she could walk away, the adventurer asks her to wait a second, quickly getting her attention. At this, he takes the young woman's injured hand and examines the deep cuts caused by the bowstring she uses. The healer then uses his fairy magic, creating a bright green light that envelopes her entire injured palm. The magical energy starts working instantly, closing all the wounds and relieving the poor blonde's fatigue. Finally, the girl is shocked to see that her hands have been healed so quickly and effectively by the young man. With that, the young man says she's pushing herself too hard and that the fear of not seeing results can be terrible. He remembers his past and warns that forcing things with willpower can break both body and mind. The archer listens intently as the hero asks if she thinks she can achieve anything in that state of exhaustion. At this, the young woman agrees and realizes he's right about the excessive training she was doing. The protagonist then says that after a good rest, she might be able to shoot even better with her bow. He smiles and says he's heading to Filialka and asks if she lives in that city since she was training there. With a gentle look, the young man asks if he can accompany her for a while on her way back home. The young woman is a bit surprised by the unexpected invitation, but doesn't seem to reject the idea of having company. With a smile, she accepts and thanks him very much for the kindness of the new friend she just met in the forest. But suddenly, the young man is shocked to learn that the Lumina figure event he wanted to see so badly has been cancelled. He then asks the girl if that sad news is really true, as he can't believe what he just heard. Lucia confirms and explains that the fairy princess Maris can no longer perform for some unknown reason. She comments that the young man is very unlucky, as it seems nothing has been going right for him on his journey lately. The blonde girl then pets Gracia's head and says that even the little doggy was looking forward to the show. Seeing this, the hero realizes that other people can't hear the voice of his talking furry partner. With that, Lucia asks if Satiel is a big fan of the Lumina figure performances to be so upset. He confirms excitedly and praises the magical techniques and delicate body movements of the show. At this, we see an image of the dancers performing with their purple dresses on a bright and magical stage. The young man then says with a smile that those performances are a true form of complete and beautiful art. He finishes by saying that in a way, the Lumina figure is a source of hope for him, and the blonde girl is surprised. He explains that some Lumina performers gave up on fighting and he feels a connection to them. The young man remembers that even healers need attack magic to level up in the guild, but no matter how much he trained, he could never learn any offensive spells to defend himself. The blonde girl is confused by the young man's story and doesn't quite understand what he means. But seeing the performers on stage gives him courage and seems to save his old self from the darkness. With a smile, Lucia says that he says things that don't match his apparent age. She then reminds him of his own words about not needing to rush to get things done. The dark-haired man smiles and agrees that she's right about the advice he himself gave earlier. He then changes the subject and asks why the dancer Maris can no longer perform at the event. The protagonist has a serious expression as he awaits the answer from his new companion. With a sad look, the archer reveals that the truth is Maris is sick with something serious. It's an illness that can't be cured with common remedies and requires material from a special monster. That's why the young woman clenches her fist and says she's trying so hard because of her sick friend. The young man then understands everything and asks if she was training with her bow and arrow for that reason. She confirms with a smile, saying she knows it's impossible, but that it's something she has to try. With a determined look, the blonde girl reveals that the girl is her one and only true best friend. The healer then smiles with his eyes closed and says that the blonde is very strong for doing this. With that, he asks what exactly is the material needed to create the cure for the illness. The young man gives a slightly sheepish laugh upon hearing the name of the ingredient, which seems quite familiar. The girl finds his reaction reckless, but the hero comments that they have a dragon liver. The young man shows the dragon liver to the blonde girl and asks if they can save Maris with it. At this, the archer is left completely speechless by the revelation and stares at the item with wide eyes. With that, the hero holds up the pinkish organ and says it can't be a lie because he got it himself. The scene then shifts to the city of Filialka, where the magical night covers the houses with a purple glow. Inside, we see Maris lying in a bed with red marks, showing the severity of her illness. Lucia runs into the room and calls for Dr. Eleanor, who waits for her with a serious expression. The brown-haired doctor looks at the young woman with a calm and professional expression on her face. With that, the doctor sits beside the bed while the blonde girl approaches to deliver the great news. Crying with happiness, Lucia shows the dragon liver she obtained for her friend's cure. From the doorway, the protagonist watches the whole scene in silence with a very calm expression on his face. The woman in white then looks at the item with a very suspicious surprise in her eyes. The healer continues to observe the interaction between the two with a serious and very wary look. At that moment, he asks if that is really enough to cure the girl in the bed. The doctor then hugs Lucia and says that this is wonderful for the patient's treatment. The young man watches the scene from afar as the blonde girl cries, with relief on the older woman's shoulder. But our hero is confused by the situation and wonders what is really happening there. The doctor then gives a strange and mysterious look that makes the atmosphere in the room very tense. With tears in her eyes, the archer asks if this means her friend will finally be saved. The woman confirms that she will save her, and Lucia celebrates the news she had been waiting so long to hear. Eleanor then looks at the young man and asks if he was the one who brought the item, and he says it was a coincidence. The doctor gives a suspicious smile and says she understands the situation clearly. With a serious look, the protagonist simply replies that it was very lucky. Suddenly, he feels a strange energy, and his eyes widen in shock. He then wonders why his full auto skill activated, even when he wasn't in combat. At this, the woman's movements seem slow, and he questions if it's the enhanced focus. A dark figure with glowing red eyes suddenly appears in his mind. He has a vision of a giant skeleton as the doctor says she will prepare the medicine. The young man then approaches her with an expression of pure suspicion and tension. With that, the adventurer is on high alert as he feels something is very wrong. Lucia notices his attitude and calls his name with a concerned expression. She tells him not to worry because Dr. Eleanor is very trustworthy in the city. The blonde girl explains that even the children take her medicine and call her a mage. The healer hears the story and comments that it is indeed impressive. Then the bedroom door closes, and the atmosphere inside becomes much heavier. Our hero wonders what that sense of danger he felt a moment ago was. The doctor returns with another patient, and the archer asks if it's what she thinks it is. At this, the woman shows a vial with a red and very shiny potion in her hand. She says with a smile that if the sick girl drinks it, she will recover instantly. The marks of the illness are still visible on poor Maris's face and neck, but the young man interrupts and says he wants to ask something, just for educational purposes. With a serious look, the protagonist asks what the ingredients of that suspicious medicine are. The doctor gives a smile and says she will list some of the components of the magic potion. At this, she mentions dragon liver and other items as she prepares to give the liquid. She then says that the rest of the ingredients are a secret and brings the vial closer to the patient. But the young man acts fast and grabs the woman's arm, stopping her from giving the medicine. With that, he says that even a healer like him knows that potion. A dark image of a skull forms in the red liquid, revealing the truth. Then he reveals that it's a deadly poison that destroys people from the inside out. He reveals that the medicine is actually a deadly substance that destroys people from the inside. The archer is shocked by this and doesn't understand a thing about what's happening. The woman then gives a wicked smile and asks what he could possibly be talking about. At that moment, the blonde turns to the hero and asks what he meant by that. But the fake doctor just shows a sinister smile, revealing her true intentions. With the vial in her hand, she says that if the boy is so curious about the medicine, she says he should try it on himself to find out what the potion really does. The archer is paralyzed with fear, unable to react to the woman's sudden attack. But our hero acts fast and pushes his new friend away from the imminent danger. As a result, the liquid ends up splashing on the healer's face, and he feels the pain instantly. The girl desperately screams her new friend's name when she sees what happened to him. The poison begins to spread through the young man's body, and he feels its effects immediately. Dark marks spread quickly across his body as he tries to resist. Then he uses his angelic heal magic to get rid of the poison that hit him. A blue aura surrounds his body, and in seconds, he's fully recovered from the attack. Seeing this, the doctor gets furious and yells that this is why she can't stand healers. She then tries to escape, but his canine partner appears to block her path. The wolf leaps toward the woman and growls that he won't let her get away. The creature then bites the villain's arm hard to stop her from escaping. The animal then throws her to the ground and pins her down, so she can't cause any more trouble. Eleanor looks at him furiously and asks if the boy is part of some special group. The villain then decides that's enough talk and releases her dark aura throughout the room. With this, she intends to end it all right now using her true evil power. The adventurer and his friend watch as a giant, frightening shadow emerges. The fake doctor finally reveals her demon form and says her name is Eleanor, but she says she'll make them pay dearly for the defeat of her precious pet dragon. The protagonist is surprised to hear about the winged creature he faced before. At that moment, the witch explains that the poison monster was actually her faithful servant. She looks at her hands, lamenting that her plans were ruined by mere mortals. The creature also says she planned to turn the princess into her new puppet. With a cold gaze, she vows she will never forgive the boy for messing everything up. The archer then gets confused and asks what the woman has been talking about this whole time. The enemy then scoffs at the sentiment of friendship and calls the blonde a foolish human. The evil woman explains that the sick girl was just going to be used to lure in other victims. In that instant, the two are horrified to discover the opponent's immense cruelty, but the demon just smiles, saying they all belong to the forces of darkness. The healer gets angry and asks why anyone would do something so terrible and wicked. With contempt, she states that this world is too good to be wasted on people. She continues, saying the waters and forests are rich in very pure magic. At that moment, the dark being makes it clear she intends to conquer everything because it's such an enchanting place. Before the humans ruin everything, the demons plan to take over every corner of this magic, rich world. The creature then claims the demon king will save the land in a very cruel and terrifying way. The hero grinds his teeth, feeling immense anger at all the senseless destruction against the people. With a smile on her face, the villain comments that she might have gotten a little too carried away talking with the youngsters. So she decides to end the chat and begins preparing a very powerful magic strike against the group. The young adventurer is thrown backward by the impact of the dark energy that hits the area, but the witch doesn't stop and summons a giant water spirit to finish off her opponents once and for all. In that instant, the protagonist grips his staff tightly and prepares to use his attack technique. He spins the weapon, creating a blue aura as he bravely charges toward the giant liquid monster. From the impact, the elemental spirit starts to come apart, losing its original form after the powerful blow. Seeing the enemy stagger, the warrior realizes the attack is working very well against the threat. He then notices that to defeat the creature, he needs to destroy the core hidden inside the water. Finding the weak spot, the boy focuses all his attention on the small, glowing sphere that is floating. Quickly, the hero lands a direct hit, trying to pierce through the creature's body to end it all, but the monster regenerates quickly, and water splashes everywhere in the room, making the fight more difficult. Realizing nothing has changed, the archer points out that they're not getting anywhere fighting like this. Mocking them, the evil woman asks if that's the most power they can show in a fight. The healer tells her to stop talking so much nonsense about destiny as he tries to recover, but the blonde lowers her head and murmurs that she can't take any more of the witch's humiliations. At that moment, the girl draws her arrow furiously and vows she will never forgive the villain for what she's done. The hero strikes the water monster, but the creature regenerates instantly, ignoring his attack. The villain scoffs at their efforts, saying this whole friendship act is just pathetic. The blonde becomes enraged and tries to shoot more arrows, even though she's badly injured and tired. But the archer's shots pass right through the elemental spirit without causing any real damage. At that moment, the young warrior shouts for his friend to calm down and keep a level head. But she retorts in despair, feeling she doesn't have the strength to defeat the evil witch. Then the boy walks over to her and says, "That's enough of all this yelling in the middle of a fight." He explains that panic clouds your focus and hides the true nature of things. The girl listens to his words carefully and slowly starts to control her breathing. The healer then says she already knows what to do and just needs to trust her instincts. In that instant, the young woman's vision changes, and she starts to see beyond the creature's body. The water spirit reveals a bright, red core right in the center of its liquid structure. With perfect posture, the archer aims her bow with a precision that seems supernatural. At that moment, her eyes close for a second to feel the direction of the wind. She then opens her eyes with unshakable determination, focusing only on her main target. The blonde draws the bowstring with all her soul, and a green energy starts to emanate from her. The monster roars, but its weak point is completely exposed for the girl's final attack. With clarity, the warrior states that she can finally see where she needs to hit to win. She lets out a deep breath and concentrates every drop of her magic into that single sharp tip. Then the arrow of light shoots forward at high speed, tearing through the air toward the enemy's core. The water spirit charges forward fiercely, but the arrow hits its target dead on, destabilizing the creature. With the impact, the elemental monster explodes into 1,000 pieces and begins to completely dissolve in the room. The villain watches the scene with wide eyes, unable to believe her servant was defeated so easily. The giant's liquid body then dissolves into the air, leaving the witch completely unprotected in the fight. The archer and the evil woman stare each other down as silence fills the room for a few moments. Then the hero smiles proudly and says his partner's shot was truly incredible and right on the mark. At that moment, the blonde keeps her guard up with her bow, ready for any other surprises from the enemy. The boy observes the situation seriously and realizes the fight is still far from over. The white wolf then looks at the girl, impressed with the rapid improvements she showed in battle. The healer notices his canine partner's gaze and confirms that her power is something extraordinary. With that, the legendary creature admits that the young woman's ability is frightening, even for an ancient being. But the demon grinds her teeth in anger and smiles grimly. Even after losing her spirit, she admits their strength is impressive, but claims she still has many tricks up her sleeve In that instant, the woman prepares to retreat, warning that she won't be defeated so easily. The warrior then gets into position to prevent the opponent's escape, holding his weapon tightly, but the witch nimbly jumps back and starts to distance herself from the young adventurers in the room. With a swift movement, she crosses her arms and activates a purple magic circle to protect herself from an attack. The evil woman conjures a dark cloud and escapes through the ceiling while mocking everyone there. The canine yells that she's getting away and calls for the boy to get on his back so they can start the chase. At that moment, the protagonist's face shows surprise as he notices something strange happening. He then realizes that if the villain escapes now, the young Maris will be lost forever. At that moment, the boy explains that to save the princess, he needs to take the core from the witch herself. The archer then grabs the wolf's tail tightly, asking the group to wait a second before leaving, but the blonde begs to go with them, wanting to help save her best friend at all costs. The hero looks at her, surprised, but quickly agrees, saying she can indeed join them in the pursuit. In that instant, the adventurer extends his hand and pulls the girl up onto the large, furry animal. The group then finally sets off, riding the canine, who makes a face like he's not enjoying this at all, but they press on, crossing through the dense forest as night falls over the entire village. The friends quickly manage to catch up to the demon, who was waiting for them in a dark spot in the woods. At that moment, the hero warns her that she's cornered and that her game is over once and for all. But the witch just lets out a mocking laugh, claiming that they are actually the ones who have fallen into her trap. Suddenly, a gigantic mud creature rises from the ground with a completely terrifying and bizarre appearance. With that, several other slime beings begin to sprout from the earth, surrounding our heroes on all sides. In that instant, the boy covers his face, smelling an unbearable stench coming from the dirt monsters. The wolf then complains that the smell is too strong for his sensitive animal nose, but the canine immediately states that he's no ordinary dog and can handle the full odor. As the situation gets tense, the healer prepares for combat, using his healing aura for protection. Suddenly, one of the monsters fires a heavy mud projectile toward the hero at high speed. At that moment, the young man uses his physical strike technique to powerfully deflect the enemy's attack. With a focused gaze, the protagonist destroys the projectile in mid-air, showing he's ready for the real fight. The hero realizes that ordinary attacks alone won't be enough to win this difficult battle. Meanwhile, the witch continues to float and watch everything from above with a mocking look. The boy then shouts to the archer, asking her to knock down the fruits in the tree. With that, the blonde quickly gets ready while the white wolf dashes across the battlefield. At that moment, the girl is a little confused, but quickly understands her friend's unusual plan. Firing her arrows with precision, she manages to knock down several fruits at once. The warrior then moves with agility to intercept the attacks from the mud monsters. Leaping into the air, the young adventurer prepares to perform a very risky and fast maneuver. His canine partner watches the scene closely, sensing that something very important is about to happen. The hero quickly grabs the items that fell and crushes them with all his physical strength. He then praises his partner's work, saying she did everything exactly as planned. In that instant, the boy mixes the ingredients in a vial, creating a powerful, improvised potion. The protagonist then charges forward with total determination, feeling the power flow through his entire body. Suddenly, he unleashes a powerful strike against a huge dirt projectile coming his way. The large sphere of mud gets closer. The enemy's attack tears through the air as the healer prepares his final counter-attack. Using his magic sword, he slices the mass of sludge in half with a firm and very swift motion. At that moment, the threat splits into two parts, falling to the ground completely harmlessly. The archer is amazed by the scene, but soon wonders what will come next in this fight. The white wolf makes a funny face, noticing that his new master's strength is truly surreal. The hero explains that the potion he made is a very powerful and useful hardening agent. The boy then tells the wolf he'll have to put up with the stench, since he's not an ordinary dog. With that, the canine growls in anger, but accepts the mission as the adventurer gets ready for action. The warrior then spreads the liquid on his sword and leaps into the air to execute his final plan. Suddenly, the young man throws the barrel into the lake, causing the contents to spread throughout the still water. The blonde smells the horrible odor and complains about the stench, while trying to stay on her feet in the fight. The arrow with the special liquid cuts through the air, leaving a trail of energy that instantly solidifies the ground. The white wolf gets sick from the smell and ends up fainting, lying in the mud that formed on the ground. At that moment, the dirt monsters begin to harden and turn into stone statues. The archer is confused and asks why the ground suddenly became hard without any explanation. The demon then appears with a malicious smile and asks if the group is ready to give up yet, but the healer realizes the stench is too much for his friend's sense of smell and needs to come up with another plan. In that instant, the blonde asks if the boy has any strategy in mind to defeat the witch. The hero takes a look at the situation and quickly understands what needs to be done to end it. He whispers in his friend's ear, telling her an important secret for their victory in the battle. The young man then states that the monsters are just clones and that the villain's real body is hidden. He continues to explain that the real enemy must be camouflaged somewhere nearby. The demon's eyes go wide as she realizes her illusion trick has been discovered by the warrior. The archer is surprised but quickly understands she needs to find the real opponent. The girl then touches her forehead and concentrates to activate a new, powerful eye ability. The archer explains she can use an appraisal spell to find the hidden enemy. The hero is very surprised to hear that the girl possesses such a rare ability. She then begins to channel her mana, while the witch watches with a malevolent glare. The demon shouts that she won't let anyone interfere with her plans for a second time. In that instant, a wave of dark energy is fired at the blonde to interrupt her. But the girl remains completely focused on her forehead, ignoring the danger coming her way. The canine partner then leaps quickly to protect his friend from the deadly attack. With that, the warrior loses her balance and ends up falling off the large white animal's back. But she quickly recovers and gets back into her fighting position, mounting the wolf again. The villain becomes furious and tells the adventurers to stop moving around so much on the battlefield. Meanwhile, the protagonist expertly uses his staff to deflect the mud projectiles. At that moment, the archer continues to concentrate. Even while feeling the pressure of the battle, she presses her head as she tries to stabilize her special vision magic. The wolf asks if the girl isn't finished yet, as the situation is getting quite dangerous. The girl then apologizes, saying her casting speed is very slow. Suddenly, the magic works and reveals information about all the beings in the area. The hero focuses his blue eyes and notices the magic web is mapping every living thing there. He dodges a swift attack while waiting for the signal from his new combat ally. The spell then marks the real Eleanor among the many bizarre mud clones. The young woman is shocked, as she has never seen her own ability work so well before. The blonde activates her appraisal magic to expose the exact location where the real enemy is hiding. A green aura then surrounds her body as she realizes this power is coming from her healer friend. The protagonist is surprised to see the intense glow emanating from his ally at that very moment. With her enhanced vision, she finally locates the central core hidden in the middle of all the mud. Sensing the danger, the demon screams that she will not allow them to interfere with her evil plans. But the boy acts quickly, launching himself through the obstacles to clear a path for the final attack. He then leaps into the air, aiming directly for the weak spot the archer just revealed to everyone. Using his physical technique, the warrior delivers a crushing blow against the monster's glowing crystal. With the direct hit, the core shatters, and the entire mud structure begins to crumble instantly. The fragments then scatter across the battlefield as the witch's magic loses all its power. A purple energy explosion follows, signaling that the spirit has been defeated for good. The villain grinds her teeth in pure rage for being outmatched by mere humans in such a direct fight. The adventurer keeps his gaze fixed on her, showing he has no intention of giving her a second to rest. Cornered, the creature of darkness floats over the swamp. Realizing her situation is desperate, she glares at the group as she thinks about what she can do to get out of there. But the wolf warns that this time, she won't be able to run away to anywhere in the world. Consumed by hatred, the opponent prepares to unleash an even more sinister form of her hidden power. With no other choice, the demon says she'll have to go all out to survive. At that moment, her nails grow into sharp claws, covered in a dark, shadowy smoke. The evil woman then uses her own blood to activate a forbidden ritual and boost her combat strength. The hero is surprised to see the witch's transformation and realizes the ritual is serious. With her powers amplified, the demon begins to feel the side effects of the forbidden magic. In that instant, the woman screams in pain as an aura of blood and shadows completely surrounds her. The canine partner is startled by the scene and warns the young adventurer to be careful of the attack. Suddenly, a barrage of sharp claws is fired at the group at extremely high speed, but the boy doesn't flinch and blocks the blow with his staff, showing his incredible resilience. The protagonist feels the heavy impact, but manages to stand his ground without taking a single step back in the fight. He then jumps back and prepares for a counter attack as the villain charges forward with everything she's got. With her red eyes glowing, the enemy shows her sharp fangs and her killer instinct. The warrior then shouts that she shouldn't underestimate him because he's much stronger than he looks. The two then exchange fierce blows in a deadly dance that echoes throughout the dark forest. The healer warns that brute force isn't everything, and that strategy is the key to defeating anyone. He ducks to dodge an attack and prepares to use one of his most secret abilities. With that, a sphere of red energy is created in his hands, containing immense healing power. The boy uses his angelic heal to purify the evil essence of the core he picked up earlier. He explains that it's the true heart of a mud golem, and that it can be purified. At that moment, a bright green aura surrounds the red sphere, transforming its energy into light. The young man then throws the purified core at the demon, who watches him with astonishment and fear. The sphere of light hits the witch head-on, causing unbearable pain in her demonic body. The villain screams in desperation as she feels the sacred power burn her skin and purify her evil soul. The hero explains that her body now regenerates, but he's going to use that against her. With that, he says that the moment she lost her reason, the fight was already decided. The witch is hit by a powerful attack as the hero says she's already lost the fight. With that, the demonic creature screams in pure agony, feeling its body breaking apart. The young adventurer then stands in the middle of the battlefield, watching the outcome. He keeps a serious expression on his face after finally defeating the powerful enemy. At that moment, the blonde archer wonders if they really managed to win the battle. The villain's body slowly breaks into pieces, and she disappears forever. In her place, only the purified core remains, now floating in a puddle of mud. With that, the girl and the white creature watch the red item from a distance. Lucia then sighs in relief and is grateful that everything worked out in the end. The girl realizes that with this, her friend Maris can finally be saved from the illness. Suddenly, the archer faints from exhaustion and falls into the arms of the healer who catches her. The young woman then shows a serene smile as she rests in the arms of her new friend. The young man looks at her and says, "She did a great job throughout the whole fight." The scene then changes to the city of Filiaca, which shines under the starry night sky. The group walks back with the hero, carrying the fainted girl in his arms. Then, the wolf stops and complains, showing his paws that are completely covered in mud. The animal complains about the horrible smell, and the protagonist agrees that the stench is unbearable. The healer says he could solve it if he had a purification spell, but he doesn't. Suddenly, his staff glows and a new ability called Refresh appears. Then, a wave of blue energy emanates from the magic weapon, cleaning everything around them. The mud on their clothes and the wolf's fur disappears, and the young man is surprised by this. He smiles, realizing he learned a new spell, and his partner is very happy. With the victory, his stats go up and his skills improve a lot after the battle. Sometime later, they arrive at a crowded arena for the magic dance event. In the center, Maris, now recovered, performs her beautiful dance for the audience. She dances with graceful and elegant movements, enchanting everyone present. From the audience, Lucia watches everything with an expression of pure admiration and happiness. The girl is amazed by the show and tells her furry friend that it's incredible. The crowd goes wild with the performance as a rainbow forms in the arena. At the end, The dancer stands alone in the center of the stage, being applauded by everyone. A new dancer with brown hair enters the stage with a sinister smile. With that, she manipulates impressive flames for the attentive crowd. Lucia watches the fire performance with a surprised expression on her face. The artist then creates a giant fire dragon that flies over the entire arena. The protagonist watches in amazement and says to himself that this is incredible. He is enchanted by the colors, the sound, and the emotion of the girl's fire dance. The young man realizes that every part of the artist's expression is complete and perfect. With tears in his eyes, he says that this is the true form of supreme art. His canine partner complains that he's getting way too excited about the performance. The archer comments that the competition's rules have evolved a lot over the years. Then she says that the next competitor will use water to cool down the heat from the stage. The wolf questions if the medicine he gave was really that effective to cause such a reaction. Gracia then reveals that it's a secret remedy passed down for generations in his clan. The blonde girl is shocked to discover that the wolf is a skyfarer of Lord Taraji. Suddenly, a hand pets the white creature's ear, which stands motionless. The animal gets annoyed and tells her to stop, but Lucia just thinks he's a cute dog. The girl continues to pet the wolf's head while watching the stage intently. Then, the next dancer with white hair enters the arena for her show. She floats in the air, surrounded by an aura of ice and shining crystals. Her shoes look like they're made of ice and shine with the magic she uses. The silver-haired young woman has a serene gaze and eyes as blue as ice. With that, she dances gracefully, creating snowflakes and waves of ice in the air. Her face shows intense concentration as she performs her movements. The dancer smiles at the audience, extending her hands in a welcoming gesture. Lucia watches the ice performance with an expression of pure admiration. With shining eyes, she says it's beautiful and that she's so happy to see it. The healer agrees with her with a kind and sincere smile on his face. He then thinks to himself that this time, he really managed to save someone. A doubt arises in his mind as he thinks about the words, "this time." The scene changes to a dark and scary forest under the light of the full moon. He remembers someone in a swamp, begging him to run and get away. Then, a creature with a scary face emerges from the darkness of his memories. The horned being looks like a twisted and frightening tree. He remembers a human figure cautiously approaching the tree. The monstrous tree dissolves into a pool of dark liquid. The protagonist has a vision of his own face covered in this substance. He snaps out of his thoughts when he's pushed by some kids in the crowd. Confused, he wonders what that strange vision he just had was. On stage, the silver-haired dancer continues her beautiful performance. She smiles gracefully at the audience, charming everyone with her dance. The young man feels a drop of sweat run down his tense face. He seems disturbed by the vision he had and can't relax. The young adventurer sits in the stands with a worried expression. His reflection is seen in the eye of his partner, who watches him attentively. A screen shows that his automatic healing ability has risen to level 8. After the show, people start to leave the arena in groups. The hero and his friends get ready to leave along with the crowd. Lucia smiles and asks if he's also going to see Maris after all this. With a serious expression, the young man confirms that he is. Suddenly, a young man with gray hair calls his name, getting his attention. The healer clenches his fist and slowly turns around with a surprised expression. He's shocked to see Astel, an old acquaintance, standing there in front of him. The gray-haired young man asks why he's in a place like this. He goes on to say that the hero could have at least answered his letters. The protagonist gets embarrassed and apologizes, saying he's been busy. Lucia asks if they know each other, and the young man says that Sodiel is just a nickname. Then he asks Astil why he's in this city. Astil smiles and reveals that he became a Lumina dancer, just like he always wanted. The protagonist nods and asks how his parents and friends are doing. But Astil's answer leaves the healer with a very serious expression. Astil smiles and says that everyone is doing great and is still very excited about everything. The healer senses that Astil is hiding something and watches him with suspicion. He then remembers the demon with one red eye that he saw in his vision earlier. The memory makes him think about the demons and their evil plans. Lucia gets confused hearing their conversation and doesn't understand a thing. The young man asks if Astil is going back to the village after this event. With a smile, he invites his old friend to go back together. Astil is surprised by the invitation and seems to think for a moment. He then agrees with a kind smile on his face, accepting the offer. The three of them set off together on a dirt road towards the village. Lucia comments that he still has the dog and calls him cute. Astil looks at the girl and says that now he even has a girlfriend. The protagonist gets embarrassed and says she's not his girlfriend. He goes on to say that he saved Princess Maris in an incredible way. The two friends chat excitedly as they walk down the road. Lucia watches the two of them and comments that it's surprising to see Sodiel smiling. The wolf agrees, saying that he used to smile more back in the day. Lucia gets intrigued and asks the animal how long he's known him. Astil replies that the wolf has been with him since the boy was 10 years old. Gracie explains that he was born to fulfill a mission, but was immature at the time. Because of his arrogance, he says the boy lost his parents, and after a while, the boy himself also left this world. Lucia listens to the story in silence with a sad expression. Gracia remembers seeing the young man crying as if he were broken. With a serious expression, he says he must have felt sorry for him. That's why he decided to stay by the boy's side for a while. The animal remembers comforting him in difficult and lonely times. Sometimes he would also scold him when he did something wrong. He concludes that maybe this is what humans call family. A hand then pets the wolf's head, who looks surprised. The wolf gets flustered by the petting and asks what she's doing. With a gentle smile, Lucia says that he looked like he was about to cry. The white creature is surprised by the girl's perception. She says she always thought the young man carried a weight inside him. With a smile, she says she imagines the same goes for him too. The animal is speechless and doesn't know what to say to the archer. Then, the blonde girl says she followed him because she was worried about the protagonist. She concludes that she can't leave him alone on this journey either. The group continues their walk down the road towards the village. The village looks quiet and peaceful with its simple houses and green fields. Seen from above, the place looks small and isolated in the middle of nature. They approach the protagonist's house, which is on a hill. The house looks old and covered in moss, with an air of abandonment. Astil comments that it's very quiet today, and the healer agrees. They arrive in front of the house, which seems empty and silent. The gray-haired young man remembers a time they fell into a well. He asks if the hero remembers the scolding his father gave them that day. The protagonist smiles and says that hit from his father really hurt. Suddenly, Astil stops walking and gets serious, catching his friend's attention. He stops in front of the house's door with a dark expression. Then he says that since they've made it this far, he shouldn't freak out too much. With a gesture, he points to the door and asks his friend not to be scared. He opens the door and reveals what was hidden inside. Astil's shadow covers the protagonist's face, who is in shock. With wide eyes, he can't believe what he's seeing. Inside the house, two monstrous trees are standing in the room. The trees have scary faces and look like they're screaming in pain. The gray-haired young man smiles and says he's still going to be shocked. The healer asks how that happened and what those things were. Astil reveals that it's an absin that turns people into trees and takes them out. He explains that they sacrifice themselves to protect Rit's son. The healer touches the tree and whispers the names of his uncle and aunt. He presses his hand on the tree's bark with a pained expression. His eyes fill with determination as he promises to save them. Astil smiles and says it's admirable that they are protectors of the village. The protagonist says he doesn't need to look so dark and sad. The gray-haired young man is confused by his friend's reaction. Then the hero reveals that they aren't gone yet and can be saved. Astil is shocked, but the healer tells him to look closely. The young man explains that it's a condition where poison turns the body into wood. He says the process is at 20% and he can still heal them. Astil asks if he can really save them, and the hero confirms it. The young man says he's been through a lot since he left the village. With that, they enter a cave to find the ingredient for the cure. The healer steps in a puddle of water, and a slime creature emerges. The blue creature seems to be a slime queen and stares at him. The protagonist attacks the creature with his sword in a quick motion. He and his partner fight against the slimes that appear in the cave. The wolf wonders who this boy is and where he came from. He knows the cure can be made with the slime queen's mucus. The creature multiplies into several smaller slimes to attack them. Gracia wonders how the young man knew about the slime queen. He notices that the hero's sword strikes are familiar. Then he remembers when Tyria picked up a wooden sword for the first time. The wolf wonders if he's overthinking it or if there's something strange going on. They reach a deep part of the cave and prepare for the worst. Suddenly, a large blue slime projectile is launched at them. The wolf jumps and swallows the projectile to protect his partner. With a smile, he says he can't be useless forever, either. The protagonist smiles and says he always counts on him in every battle. The wolf asks if he's been in this cave with Tyria before. The healer reveals that ever since he met Astil, he's been having strange visions. The white creature listens attentively to its partner's explanation. Suddenly, another slime projectile is launched towards the hero. He dodges it with an agile move and says his body is moving on its own. The young man realizes he's using Tyria's memories to fight. The wolf confirms that he and Tyria have been in this cave before. He remembers that Tyria was clumsy, but had great physical potential. Still, he continues to fight the slimes with his sword. The hero uses a new cutting ability to attack the monsters. He's surprised to discover he's learned a new sword technique. The wolf explains that Tyria learned several skills while running from the slimes. The protagonist realizes that cut was also one of Tyria's skills. Gracia says he wouldn't recommend Tyria's training method to anyone. The healer looks at his hands and seems thoughtful for a moment. Suddenly, several rocks start falling from the cave's ceiling. He gets scared by the cave and doesn't know what to do. The young man shouts for his partner to watch out for the falling rocks. They run to dodge the rocks falling all over the cave. The hero protects himself from the debris falling from the ceiling. The dust settles, and he notices the place is different. The healer wonders what this place is and what happened. A blue liquid starts dripping from the ceiling towards him. The goo falls on him and his partner, covering them completely. The wolf feels sick from the goo, and a green aura surrounds him. The hero also feels the effects of the slime, and his auto heal activates. He asks if his partner is okay, and the wolf confirms he is. Then, the goo on the floor starts to transform into something new. The healer watches the transformation with his staff in hand. Two giant snakes emerge from the slime and attack them fiercely. The protagonist wields his sword and prepares for combat. Suddenly, the slime queen appears, floating with a powerful aura. The hero realizes the queen herself has decided to show up for the fight. With a determined look, he says he's going to take her down now. On the cavern floor, a small slime jellyfish appears in front of the healer. He then lands a quick blow with his sword against the gelatinous creature. The swift strike from his sword slices the blue creature into several pieces. Just then, another monster tries to attack him, but the young man dodges it nimbly. The pieces of the slime dissipate into the air after being cut by the sharp blade. With a quick spin, the MC prepares for a new attack against the monsters. With a determined look, he shouts that the enemies are far too naive. His sword then cuts through another slime with precision and speed. The hero continues his relentless assault on the cavern creatures. With that, his cutting and healing skills level up, and he gains a speed bonus. Standing over the remains of the monsters, he notices it's a high purity magic slime. Holding a vial of the goo, he says that with this, he can make the cure. Back in the village, they enter an old, abandoned house to rest. Inside the dark space, a lantern is lit, illuminating the room. The gray-haired young man then asks the archer why she is there with them. The blonde-haired girl sits in silence for a moment, thinking about her answer. With a smile, she says the main reason is to pay off her debt. Al asks if it's to the fairy princess, and she confirms, saying they're best friends. Tyria also reveals she wanted to see if she could be of any help to Soteru. Understanding the situation, his friend smiles and remarks that the MC is a real charmer. Suddenly, outside, the hero faces a new, small enemy. The demon boy asks why he's acting so defiant. He says that the first time they met, the MC was nothing more than a weak insect. At that moment, The healer dodges a swift attack from his small adversary. However, the enemy's attack manages to graze the hero's shoulder. A green aura then envelops his arm, and the wound heals instantly. The MC's eye glows with an intense red light as he glares at the demon. Satoru warns that he's not the same kid he was before, but his opponent doubts it. The demon boy complains that humans are unruly and a real pain in the neck. He then prepares a new attack with rings of red energy in his hand. The demon floats and says that when kids like him mess up, they're the ones who take the heat. With a furious glare, he bares his fangs, ready to attack the healer. He then launches his energy rings and says he's going to teach him to be more obedient. The hero braces himself to defend against the red projectiles coming his way. With his staff, he creates a wave of blue energy that deflects the enemy's attacks. The archer narrowly dodges one of the energy rings that whizzed past her. Startled, the girl asks if the village is under a demon's control, but he denies it. The MC then reveals that the creature isn't actually a demon, but a fake. The small enemy is taken aback by the revelation and stares at him with a defiant look. Annoyed, he calls it nonsense and asks where the young man got that idea. The healer dodges and counter-attacks with a powerful punch, knocking his friends to the ground. The force of the blow is so great that it throws everyone backward from the impact. With a serious expression, the hero says the answer to that is quite simple. He then lands a direct hit on the small adversary with his staff. With the tip of his weapon at the enemy's neck, he begins to talk about demons. The archer tells Ale that Satoru is going to be mad, but she admits to being a little envious. The gray-haired friend repeats the girl's words, seeming thoughtful about it. Sitting in a chair, he gets the blonde's attention to continue their conversation. With a somber look, he confesses that his envy is so great he could kill him. The girl is completely shocked by her teammate's revelation. He then reveals that 8 years ago, the hero's parents were taken out by the village's absent. In a flashback, he remembers seeing the MC crying alone and helpless. The archer grows concerned with the story and listens intently to Al's confession. With a wicked smile, he reveals that at the time, he thought the MC deserved it. Back in the present, he holds his head in his hands and admits it was a horrible thought. Al says he always considered him a precious friend and that he should have shared his pain. He continues, saying that to think that way at such a delicate moment. With that, he reveals that it makes him feel sick and disgusted with himself. The girl is terrified upon hearing her companion's dark confession. Back to reality, the hero smiles, holding the potion, and says he's going to save his aunt and uncle. The healer is surprised by his friend's reaction to his return. He asks what's wrong, but the gray-haired young man says it's nothing. Al then changes the subject and asks if he can really bring his aunt and uncle back. With a confident smile, the MC tells him to leave everything to him. The archer observes the interaction between the two with a serious and thoughtful expression. At that, the two friends draw closer as Satoru prepares to use the potion. The hero raises the vial, saying that with this, he can finally heal them. Inside the glass, the blue liquid glows with a magical and purifying energy. He then approaches the first monstrous tree, which was his uncle. The young man pours the potion into the creature's mouth to begin the healing process. Instantly, the tree's purple bark begins to crack into several pieces. A human figure emerges from within the tree as it slowly falls apart. A man embraces the healer, and Al shouts with joy, calling him Dad. The older man seems to be slowly waking up after the miraculous healing. Satoru helps the man sit next to his son, who supports him. Next, he goes to the other tree and pours the rest of the potion into it. The hero calls out for his aunt as the tree's transformation begins. A woman then emerges from the tree, looking a bit confused and drowsy. Suddenly, the MC's eyes widen with surprise and concern. The woman screams in pain as a purple energy completely envelops her. She starts coughing, and a strange red goo comes out of her mouth. The MC is in shock, watching the scene without understanding what went wrong. The archer is also horrified by the woman's terrible situation. Al calls for his mother, confused and scared by what's happening. The woman's body then dissolves into a large puddle of red liquid. The red puddle begins to rise and take on a familiar, frightening shape. The fake demon emerges from the liquid and asks why they're such good friends. Covered in the red goo, he laughs maniacally at the terrified group. Ale and the healer look up, shocked by the terrible turn of events. The gray-haired young man is frozen in fear at the sight of the creature before him. Al's eyes widen in pure shock and fury at the sight of the creature. At that moment, the demon grabs the young man's neck and lifts him off the ground. With a wicked smile, he says he went to the trouble of nurturing all of his hatred. The gray-haired boy is in shock, unable to react to the surprise attack. His feet dangle in the air as the creature squeezes him tighter and tighter. The fake demon holds him effortlessly, showing off its impressive strength. With a red glare, he shouts that he nurtured Al's hatred very carefully. El can barely breathe and lets out a pained groan, feeling the fatal grip. But the healer acts fast and cuts off the enemy's arm with his sharp sword. The small adversary is surprised by the speed of the hero's attack. With the arm severed, the gray-haired young man falls to the ground, coughing hard. The enemy reveals that demons possess a mana that can crush anyone else's. Satoru remains unfazed and charges forward again to attack the evil creature. He then says that if the curse were from a real demon, things would be different. The small monster manages to block the sword's strike with its bare hand. The blade stops inches from its face, and the creature smiles confidently. Then, the enemy shouts that the curse wouldn't have been cured with a simple antidote. But the MC's attack hits him squarely, sending him flying backward with force. Satoru explains that if it were a real demon, they would need to rip out its mana core. The fake demon understands the situation, and its face fills with a dark fury. He warns that now he won't hold back anymore, and his eye glows red. The red goo that forms its body begins to twist and change shape. A blade forms, and he says that even if he's not a demon, he can still end him. With a confident smirk, the creature shows it's ready to fight for real. Its body transforms, and the red goo creates new protection around its waist. Next, the enemy launches 2 red energy projectiles at the hero. The healer uses his sword to deflect the attacks with a swift movement. Without giving up, the small adversary launches even more projectiles his way. Satoru then surprises everyone and manages to catch one of the attacks with his hand. The demon boy smiles and challenges him to come at him with everything he's got. The archer watches the healer, and the enemy exchange fast and precise blows. With that, the girl activates her appraisal skill to analyze the adversary. The MC is surprised by his teammate's sudden action. The analysis reveals the molecular structure of the small demon floating in the air. She discovers it has strong molecular bonds that require a light-based attack. The blonde then yells to get her gray-haired friend's attention. She tells him to enchant Sotaru's sword with light magic to defeat it. Al hesitates and says he can do it, but he seems afraid. The girl grabs him by his clothes and shouts for him to get it together. She reminds him that the MC is his precious childhood friend, but he just looks away. Annoyed with his hesitation, the archer yells that of course he's his friend. Al is shocked by the girl's reaction and stares at her, at a loss for words. She says she understands his feelings, because she also has someone precious to her. The gray-haired young man remains silent, seemingly in an internal conflict. The archer then confesses that she also used to be very envious of Malus. She remembers how her friend was strong and direct, which made her feel plain. But the blonde shouts that she still loves her anyway, and asks if it's not the same for him. Al starts to remember happy moments he spent with the MC. In a flashback, the 2 boys are playing near a well in the village. In another memory, Al's father is scolding both of them for some mischief. Even after the telling off, the 2 friends laugh together about the funny situation. Young Ale gives a knowing smile to his best childhood friend. His eyes shone with the joy and innocence of true friendship. The MC also smiled, happy to have a friend like him by his side. Back in the present, Al grits his teeth, determined to help his friend. The hero shouts the archer's name, which seems to be Teria, telling her to get back. Then, Al kneels and begins to prepare his powerful light magic. With a shout, he unleashes the seraphic spell with all his might. The healer's sword begins to glow with an intense turquoise light. With the enchanted sword, the MC readies himself for the final blow. Al shouts with all his might for his friend to attack the enemy now. With that, the hero thanks him for the help and prepares for the final blow, but the small enemy launches an attack, saying he won't be hit. The MC isn't intimidated and continues to charge forward for the attack. He then leaps into the air and performs a spin with his glowing sword. His movement creates a whirlwind of light around him as he descends. With a cry, the young man unleashes a powerful slash with his enchanted blade. The sword of light strikes the small adversary right in the middle of its face. The blow is so powerful that a crack appears in the enemy's eye. With the sword of light, the healer delivers the final blow to the fake demon. The creature dissolves into a puddle of red goo, screaming in pain. The archer celebrates the victory, saying they finally did it. Relieved that the battle is over, Elle lets out a tired but happy laugh. The MC stares at the creature's remains with a serious and calm expression. Suddenly, the red goo on the floor begins to spin into a vortex. The healer notices the strange movement and becomes alert to the situation. A hand made of goo then grabs him by surprise, and he yells out, startled. The creature says it warned him it wasn't a demon, and a giant hand emerges. It then shouts that it's very strong and traps the hero with several red bands. The young man is completely immobilized by the enemy's energy tentacles. He tries to break free, but the tentacles cut him, activating his auto-heal. With a determined look, the healer doesn't let the situation get him down. In the corner of the room, a knocked over bucket of water catches the hero's eye. The MC then uses his renewal ability, creating a blue aura. A wave of purifying energy explodes from him, throwing the creature far away. The small enemy is in shock at the healer's sudden power. The blue energy begins to purify the creature, which screams in pain and in agony. Its body starts to change color, turning into a purple goo. Lying on the ground, it asks why this is happening to it. The goo continues to transform, losing its red and malevolent color. Desperate, it shouts, asking why it can't get back to the ground. The hero then says with a cold look that it's a shame for him. Without hesitation, the healer plunges his sword of light into the enemy's head. He then reveals that the renewal spell was meant to be used like this. With the sword stuck in the creature, he purifies it with all his power. The enemy's eye shows its agony as the light consumes it from within. The light intensifies, and the fake demon's body dissolves completely. The healer pulls his sword from the purified remains of the creature on the ground. With that, his skills level up, and he gains a new special attack. The healer watches Ale support his father after the intense battle. On the ground, the gray-haired young man's parents rest in peace, finally free. They seem to be in a deep sleep, but are completely safe and healed. With that, the MC sits on the floor, exhausted but relieved that everything turned out okay. His childhood friend then approaches him with a serious expression on his face. With his eyes closed, the gray-haired young man apologizes to the hero, but the healer says it's not a time for apologies, but for thanks. Ale then reveals he needs to apologize because he was always envious of him. He confesses that his jealousy was so great that he even wanted to see him gone. With a smile, the MC says he already knew that ever since they were kids. His friend is completely shocked by the healer's revelation. The hero reminds him that despite all that, he saved the archer's life. In a flashback, we see the MC's family being watched by Al and Teria. He explains that his family moved to the village, as if they were on the run. His parents shut themselves off from the world, thinking no one would understand them. Little Ale looked at his parents with an expression of sadness and loneliness, but the gray-haired young man reveals that the MC's family was the only one. They were the only ones who welcomed them and reached out a hand to them. Even so, Ale seems ashamed and unsure how to react to this. He says that even though he was being manipulated, the hero's family always treated them well. Little Ale remembers when he first met the young MC. The healer was the first to approach and offer his friendship. That simple handshake saved Al's family from loneliness. Back in the present, the hero tells him not to apologize, but he will accept his thanks. The gray-haired young man is speechless at his friend's kindness. With tears in his eyes, he says he did nothing to deserve that. The MC gets a little flustered, and his friend thanks him, calling him Astil. The healer then extends a hand to help his friend up. He thanks his friend for still considering him a friend. After everything, a tear rolls down the young man's face, moved by the hero's words. The gray-haired friend then reaches out his hand to be helped up by the MC. But the moment they touch, a spark of energy explodes between them. The force of the explosion throws the young man backward, leaving the hero surprised. Al also doesn't understand what happened and is confused by the sudden situation. The MC feels a strange pain and asks his friend what's wrong. Just then, his friend's fist begins to glow with an intense red aura of energy. The gray-haired young man then attacks the healer with a swift, luminous blow. He shouts the name of the ability as he delivers the powerful punch to his friend. A wave of green energy rushes rapidly toward the MC. Satoru wonders if he's being manipulated again, and who it could be. His friend continues his relentless assault with a kick full of magical energy. The hero dodges and shouts that he doesn't know what's happening to his friend. Al's fist begins to glow again with a red aura of concentrated power. With a pained expression, he seems to be fighting against some kind of mind control. In the blink of an eye, he moves at high speed to attack again. The young man then floats in the air, surrounded by a powerful, magical aura. With a sad expression, he apologizes to the archer named Teria. He says he would rather be defeated by the hero's hand, which shocks the MC. The healer clutches his head in agony, not wanting to fight his friend. Red energy threads appear connected to Al, like a puppet. The gray-haired friend smiles and calls the MC a simple puppet. He then charges forward with a dark and powerful attack against the healer. His hand grabs the hero's neck, who is surprised by the sudden assault. A purple energy begins to flow from the friend's touch into the hero's body. The MC's eye widens as he feels the strange energy invading him. Suddenly, his pupil changes into the shape of a bright, blue diamond. With a mysterious smile, he says that he already suspected something about him. His altered eye continues to stare at his friend with a calm expression. He then reveals that his friend has something else mixed inside of him.